Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live on Sky Sports.
Welcome back to tonight's football show. Richie McCormack here with you. Delighted to say joined on the line by John Giles. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Richie.
John, I know you're a good man for getting in a sneaky 9 holes whenever you can. Are we dragging you away from the golf this evening? Are you somebody who'll sit down in front of the Masters? Can you actually sit and wheedle away 5-6 hours watching the golf?
No. I never could. I love the golf, Richie.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not playing golf anymore.
Are you not?
No. Once the virus thing came in, Richie, I went back and tried to play. I was hopeless. I was never that good, but I was hopeless. So but it was a long time anyway. You know, the virus, you couldn't play.
Yeah.
So I watch it, but I'm not like I couldn't watch the telly for 5 or 6 hours now, even the Masters.
But there's enough football that you get in to watch anyway that I don't think you'd be too popular at home if you're commandeering another 5-6 hours in front of golf.
There's enough watching the football on the telly.
Come here to me. We'll start with what's most recent in the memory, because I know they impressed a lot of people last night, perhaps against a pretty poor side, but Newcastle putting some daylight between themselves and 5th place in the race for Champions League football. That 5-1 victory away to West Ham. I know West Ham were poor, but Newcastle built on that performance against Manchester United and tore through West Ham last night.
Oh yeah, they defended very, very badly, West Ham. They didn't make it easy for them, but Newcastle took full advantage of it. They've been very, very impressive, Richie. You know, they had a little spell there, like most teams have, where they weren't so good. But the match last week against Newcastle,
against Manchester United.
Sorry, United. Were very, very impressive. They won well. I mean, they gave Manchester United a real hiding, and it was really, really good performance. There's no doubt about that. And then last night they come up against West Ham, and West Ham made it easy for them. They made some terrible mistakes in it, but really, really good. There's no doubt. But the Manchester United performance was excellent, really good.
And it's like they've got that thing about a team where every section of the pitch is performing well as a unit. So the defensive four, which has been largely unchanged throughout the course of the season, there's no altering them. They perform well. Their midfield is usually the same 2 guys. Maybe there might be one alteration, as we saw Joe Willock swapped out last night. And then up front as well, they're managing to score goals when they are after overcoming that little blip whereby goal scoring seemed to be their kind of Achilles heel. Very much worth the Champions League place now at this stage, aren't they, John?
Oh, very, 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 very much so, Richie. You know, even last week against Manchester United, they brought on 3 subs, which was Callum Wilson, Joelinton, and young Gordon, the lad they got from Everton.
Yeah.
And they were on the subs bench, and it's like it shows you the strength and depth that they have. And certainly the yesterday against West Ham, I mean, West Ham made it easy for them. They made a lot of mistakes, but they were very, very good in the way in which they won. And they really have a strong team. Eddie Howe, he spent a bit of money, all right, but he spent it well, and that's all he can do. But they certainly look like a team that deserves to be in the top 4 this year.
Yeah, you kind of figure it's going to be a whole different ballgame for them, because you're talking about a team who for the majority of the last 15, 20 years haven't had to deal with, and there have been dalliances with Europe, but they haven't had to deal with playing Tuesday, Wednesday and then back on the weekend, or maybe Thursday, depending on what competition they're in. They're going to be fighting on 2 fronts from next season, and they will need to, you mentioned they do have some strength and depth there, but they're going to need to build on that even more in the summer. But if anybody has the finances to do it, it's Newcastle, really.
That's the thing, Richie. Yeah. I mean, you can't do it nowadays without the finances. There's no doubt about it. Now, that's if you spend the money wisely. And they have done that. Eddie Howe has done a big job there, and he's done that so far, Richie. There's no doubt. But they're a really, really strong team. They had a good attitude. They were able to bring on those lads during the week in the match. Very, very good. So he's done a big job.
He has.
I mean, there's a lot of teams have money, Richie, and we'll get to one of them
We will.
in Chelsea.
Yeah.
But the money has to be spent wisely. It has to be employ the manager, back him to do the signings. And unlike Chelsea, where we have the owner there, who seems to be doing it more than anybody else. So Newcastle have done it well. They've appointed Eddie Howe. He's done a good job. He's getting the right players in, and can only get better.
Yeah, looks to be. And Football and Off the Ball is brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sport. The night before then, John, I want to concentrate on the Liverpool side of things, because they were, I don't know, hanging on is probably the wrong phrase to use there, but the ball was in the net twice it was ruled out by VAR, pretty accurately so as well, we have to state. But they look like a team that's fighting not to give anything away now at this stage, rather than imposing themselves on a game. And that's it's so far removed from what they were even 12 months ago that it's really hard to countenance the fall off in performance that there's been at Liverpool in these past 12 months.
I can't understand it, Richie, to be honest. You know, like Salah was out the other night. There was a few players left out, and you know, Klopp made a comment a couple of weeks ago, like I don't know what the team is going to turn out today. You know what I mean? What are we going to do today? That's very unusual for a manager to be saying that. I mean, the manager has to put things right as much as he possibly can. But there were quite a few players left out the other night. You know, the Roberts was left out. Alexander's been playing lately. You know, I just don't understand what Klopp is doing at this particular time. You know, and Chelsea are a bit of a head case at the moment as well. But they've got Frank Lampard in on until the end of the season. But you know, Jurgen Klopp is still there. He's still the manager. Has been a brilliant manager for years, and it's very, very hard to understand what's gone wrong at Liverpool. Like they're in a very, very unusual position, and very unusual games that they're playing. Which I don't understand it at all. How things have gone so badly for Liverpool over, you know, a pretty short period of time.
Do you think Klopp's been there a good few years now at this stage? Is it a case of there's so many players within that squad now who have heard the message so often that it kind of loses resonance and you stop paying attention, and if things aren't changed, if the song isn't changed, and you kind of get sick of it pretty quickly? Like, is he still the man to guide Liverpool in your estimation? Would a change of manager in the summer benefit them, do you think? Or do you put him in charge of rebuilding this team in his own image?
Well, I think what you said is quite right, Richie. First of all, we don't know what's going on, but it can get to a stage with managers where the players have heard the same story. That has happened. You know, it wouldn't be the first time it's happened, and actually, it wouldn't be the first time that's happened to Klopp. Apparently, over in his previous jobs, you know, 7 years it was a couple of situations where things started to go wrong. So it's very, very difficult to know. We're only guessing. I'm only guessing. Could it be the Salah situation where he's got a new contract that the rest of the players wouldn't be happy about it because he's getting more than them, which seems to be the case. That can happen, Richie. You know, I mean, I can go back to my time at Leeds, and I'm pretty sure we were all on the same money. But I know for sure I wouldn't have been happy to say, if I'm playing with Billy Bremner, who was a brilliant player, and I found out that at that time, or it was certainly in the paper, Billy Bremner got a bigger contract than all of us.
Yeah.
Whether it be Norman Hunter, all these great players, Eddie Gray and Alan Clark. I'm sure that would have spoiled the team spirit that we had at that particular time, Richie.
Well,
it's very hard to build a team spirit, and it's very, very easy to lose it.
Yeah,
that's what I found in football.
If you're a manager then, and you're worried about that repetition of message, is it not within, are you better off rotating the squad yourself, and even when, like, you know yourself, the best time to get a team better, to buy a decent good player, is when the team is at its best, so they can make that step on again rather than things going stale. So should he have acted in certain positions faster than he has? Like, he should have seen this midfield issue coming, whereby they're all getting up in age, and the likes of Jordan Henderson, James Milner just don't have 2 games a week in their legs anymore. Perhaps they don't even have one even at this stage, and that their fullbacks have become an issue, and that they do need somebody who can defend as well. Is it up to him that he should have seen this issue of perhaps of staleness coming and rotated the squad a little bit more?
Well, that's one issue, or version of it, Richie. But if you go back only 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they take on Manchester United with Henderson and all these players in, that there was a lot of talk about them being passed through, and they beat them 7-0 or whatever it was, Richie. You know, so if you can do that 1 week, I think what's happened at Liverpool, they got stale. And if you look at the Manchester United match, they had to be up for that match. This was Manchester United, right? They had to be up for that match. And they were. And they hammered Manchester United, one of the best teams in the league. So why are they not doing it every week with the same players? There's something going wrong in maybe the players are coming to a stage where they can't have the right attitude. Do you know what I mean,
yeah.
Richie? Like, Henderson and all these guys played in that match, and they won it well. And my take on it as an ex-player is, when, say, I was at Leeds, we're playing Spurs or Arsenal, one of the top teams, Liverpool, you had to be up for it. And when you got up in the morning, when I got up in the morning anyway, I'm nervous, right? You can control the nerves. But you're getting ready for them. You're up for it. This is a team you have to be up for, right? Then the following week you're playing, say, Southampton, who could have been bottom of the league. You have to make yourself up for that again, Richie. You don't have the same nerves, and you don't get, but you have to build up for it. Now, in the Manchester United match with Liverpool, all those players that people are saying, well, he's finished, they got themselves up for that match in a big way, because they knew they had to. If they didn't, Manchester United would take them to bits. So they did that. But then the following week, they're playing one against the Leicester teams, and they're beaten again. Yeah. So that could be down to the manager as well. You know, I think every manager has a lifespan in a game. Yeah. And as you said early on, they could be saying, oh, no, here we go again. Here was this and here was that. We don't know. Yeah. It could be the Salah getting his contract and upset the other players. We don't know. But what we do know is that Liverpool are not the Liverpool that they have been for previous years.
Given the dip that there's been over the past week or so, would you, like, it's hard to make an argument for them getting a result from Arsenal on Sunday. But then again, you look at what they did to Manchester United, and it's very easy to make an argument that at Anfield, big crowd, big noisy day, backs against the wall, they've got the team at top of the league coming to town. There's every reason to believe that, as bad as they've been in the past couple of weeks, they could probably nick something through sheer force of personality on Sunday.
Well, it's what it's doing. It's not the personality. It's doing what they should be doing every week. Attitude-wise, you see, if the attitude is not right, Richie, you're not going to win matches. Attitude is everything. I mean, if you go back to Roy Keane playing for Manchester United, one of the great things that Keane did for Manchester United was to make sure they were all up for it every week, because he was up for it. That was what made Keane great, in my opinion. That the likes of Scholes and there's no way he would allow them in any match not to be up for it. Right? Now, look at Liverpool. Manchester United are up for it. The following week, they're not up for it. And it's all about attitude, Richie, for any team. You know, are we going to do our best? Are we going to get stuck in? Are we going to do this? That's what made Liverpool successful for the last few years. And for some reason or other, it's not there now. And we're only guessing whether it's Salah's contract, the players are getting old, they're fed up hearing Klopp every week. We don't know. But there's something missing in a big way. There's no doubt about that.
We'll find out, I guess, in the summer when they start to add more players, or perhaps they go for even bigger changes.
But to be fair, Richard, they have added a few players. You know, they have spent a bit of money in the last few weeks. And they look like good players. In my opinion, they look like good players. I mean, how many players have they signed, Richie? You look at the strikers.
Well, they wouldn't be in the same class, because I want to move on, John, before we run out of time.
Okay.
In terms of signings of Chelsea, who are a madhouse, as we covered. We talked about at length with Jonathan Wilson just before he came on there, but I need to touch on them yourself as well. Frank Lampard in as caretaker until the end of the season, or whenever they manage to get a successor on board for Graham Potter. It's hard to make sense of this one, isn't it?
Total rubbish. Total rubbish. Frank Lampard is coming in until the end of the season. I can't see him performing miracles until the end of the season to get the job again. You know, why? I mean, Potter is only there this season, and a lot of signings and that he hasn't been responsible for. I think that's the owner is responsible for. But why not let Potter stay until the end of the season? See, can he get a grip of the situation? There's so many players there that they bought; it's very difficult to do so. And he's not responsible for that. But to sack him at this particular time for Frank Lampard, who has already been sacked at the club, and I can't see Frank performing miracles until the end of the season that they're going to keep him on. So why not let Potter do it? I don't. It's a madhouse, Chelsea, at the moment, with this guy in charge of it. He's buying. I think he's buying the players. I don't think Potter's been buying the players at all. But I can't see any sense in getting Frank Lampard in until the end of the season when you've just had a manager in, to give him a little bit of time, which he's had very, very little time to put his stamp on it.
On one sense, I was trying to think, like, what does Frank Lampard get out of this? There could be a perverse situation where he ends up having a very good end to the season and, you know, gets Chelsea to a Champions League semi-final if they can get past Real Madrid. And then what do you do with him? And on the other side of that, if he has an absolute stinker between now and the end of the season, who the hell is going to want him beyond that as a manager?
Well, that's the game. You're absolutely right, Richie. It could be bad for Frank. It could be bad for the club. It could be good for everybody if Frank performs a miracle and gets them playing in a way that they should be playing, and he gets the job back again. That could happen. I wouldn't think so. I think it was bad form to get Potter in, to buy the amount of players that they have done. I don't think he's been responsible for that, and to give him a chance. He hasn't had a chance to do it. Now you got Frank in, so it's called being all over the place, Richie, and that's the American owner is responsible for that.
John, do you know what? I think that's probably a kind way of putting it, and one that's probably more broadcastable than our actual thoughts on the way Chelsea are being run at the moment. Were you like, when your managerial career, because that whole maxim is there of never go back, was there anywhere that kind of almost tempted you back?
To West Brom?
Well, to anywhere really. Like, was there any managerial gig where kind of you'd left, a couple of years pass, the vacancy becomes open again, and you think, do you know what, will I go back in there?
No, I never was in that situation, Richie. I was in a situation at West Brom where I left after 2 years and came back after 7 years.
Yeah.
You know, but there was a big change there. Most of the players that I had played with had gone at that particular stage.
Yeah, so it's a generational thing. It's just, I'm again trying to make sense of the Lampard-Chelsea situation between now and the end of the season. Is a strange one.
I don't think there's any sense in. I don't think that you can make any sense in it.
Probably a fair point.
You know what I mean? Like what they need at the moment is a manager, and they're looking around. They don't haven't a clue who to get. And Frank is available. He's been there before, and I think they've said to Frank, "Can you do it till the end of the season?"
Yeah.
And that's the best they can do, or else they have no manager. You know, at the moment, and the way they're going about it. It doesn't look like they're going to get a permanent manager in a hurry, Richie.
Yeah.
So Frank is willing to do it. I don't think he's anything to lose. Good luck to Frank. But from Chelsea's point of view, it can't be a good move. That's for sure.
It doesn't speak well to the organisational nature of the club or lack thereof. The
owner has done all the stuff, and it's proven to be wrong. He's made a mess of it. Now he's looking to get somebody to get him out of the mess he's in. But he started the mess. He signed Potter. I don't think ever that Potter was in charge of the situation in the way that he should have been, Richie. I don't think he's responsible for the players, the amount of players they bought, which was madness, because he's got about 28, 30 players Where is he going to train them? How is he going to train them?
Keep them all happy.
It's total rubbish, and I feel sorry for Potter. I don't think he's been given a chance, and this guy now is trying to get himself out of the mess that he's created himself.
Yeah, if anyone is going to land on their feet from this situation, I kind of figure it'll be Graham Potter somewhere else in the summer when he lands at another club. John, listen, absolute pleasure as always. Thanks so much for taking time out to speak to us. Who knows, we might even have like half a dozen more managerial sackings the way the bottom half of the table is condensed.
The way it's going, Richie, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think, there was that Andy Warhol maxim of in the future, everyone will have a chance to manage Chelsea at some stage or another in their career. So, keep the phone lines open, John. They could be calling you soon enough.
I wouldn't be surprised the way it's going, Richie.
John, take care. Have a great week.
I'll speak to you
Talk to you next week. Take care. There you go.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk.